The sound of royal titles collapsing is no longer happening behind palace walls, it is happening in legal documents, whispered courtroom clarifications, and silent signatures waiting on a future king's desk. What looked like family drama for years may actually be the biggest constitutional crisis the monarchy has faced in modern history. And the terrifying part? The palace never screamed. They never defended themselves. They simply waited. The world thought this was just another messy chapter in the war between Prince Harry and Prince William, another California versus Crown storyline, another media circus filled with interviews, tears, accusations, and Netflix cameras. But beneath the celebrity chaos, something colder was happening, something legal, something permanent. While Meghan Markle and Prince Harry were building an empire around royal victimhood in Montecito, the British establishment was allegedly building a wall around the throne itself. And according to explosive claims now circulating through constitutional circles, that wall may already be sealed shut around Archie and Lilibet. Everything changed in March 2026 when a quiet aristocratic inheritance case suddenly sent shockwaves straight through Buckingham Palace. A British judge ruled on whether a surrogate-born child could inherit an ancient aristocratic title. At first, the decision looked progressive, modern, flexible, but then came the sentence that froze royal watchers in place. The judge clarified that the ruling did not apply to the royal family. Not now, not ever. That single clarification exploded like a silent bomb because suddenly the question nobody inside the palace wanted spoken out loud became impossible to ignore. Why did the court feel the need to isolate the monarchy from modern surrogacy law unless there was already concern sitting inside the line of succession itself? That was the moment whispers became something darker, more calculated, more dangerous. Because for years, the public argued over theories while the institution allegedly focused on legal strategy. The palace did not need interviews. They did not need emotional statements. They only needed the ancient constitutional phrase buried deep inside the Act of Settlement 1701, heirs of the body. 4 words. 4 devastating words that may decide the future of an entire bloodline. And this is where California enters the story like a glittering trap disguised as freedom. In California, surrogacy law is designed to protect privacy. Intended parents can secure pre-birth parental orders, placing their names directly on birth certificates, while the surrogate disappears entirely from public documentation. Clean, seamless, Hollywood-friendly, a perfect sanctuary for secrecy. But British constitutional law allegedly sees things very differently. The Crown does not reportedly care about Hollywood paperwork, it cares about physical birth, tradition, verification, witnesses. The monarchy is not built on emotional narratives, it is built on precedent carved into centuries of legal stone. And suddenly every detail from Archie's birth started looking less like privacy and more like a puzzle with missing pieces. Prince Harry himself admitted in spare that they were allegedly back at Frogmore Cottage within 2 hours of Archie's birth at Portland Hospital. 2 hours. That detail alone ignited endless scrutiny because medically and geographically, critics argued the timeline made little sense. The drive from central London to Windsor could itself consume most of that time frame. Yet somehow the world was expected to believe a first-time royal mother completed delivery, post-birth monitoring, discharge procedures, and transport almost immediately. Then came the detail that made everything feel even stranger. Hours after the child was supposedly born, palace media statements allegedly announced Meghan was still in labor. That contradiction became rocket fuel for suspicion. Why announce labor after delivery? Why create a delayed narrative timeline unless there was something that needed covering? Harry later described the situation as keeping people tuned to the show, but critics said that explanation only deepened the mystery because royal births are constitutional events, not entertainment productions. And the comparisons with Catherine, Princess of Wales, only intensified the contrast. Catherine stood outside the Lindo wing with all 3 children. Palace doctors verified the births. Procedures were followed publicly and traditionally. But Meghan and Harry rejected many of those traditions entirely. No royal medical team, no immediate hospital steps appearance, no visible continuity with royal protocol. Instead, the Sussexes presented a tightly controlled reveal days later inside Windsor Castle under carefully managed conditions. To supporters, it was modern privacy. To critics, it was strategic concealment. Prince William's silence has become the most terrifying thing inside this entire royal war, because silence from a future king is never empty. It is strategic, it is disciplined, and according to growing speculation around the monarchy, William may already understand that time itself is doing the work for him. While Harry and Meghan continue building a celebrity narrative in California, the constitutional machine behind the crown allegedly keeps tightening its grip inch by inch without ever stepping into public combat. That is why the palace never reacts emotionally anymore. They do not need to. The contradictions are already circulating on their own, and every year they remain unanswered. The suspicion hardens into permanent public doubt. The real nightmare for the Sussexes is not public criticism. It is paperwork, contracts, treasury records, legal definitions. Because once royal identity became commercialized through Netflix, Spotify, publishing deals, interviews, documentaries, and billion-dollar branding opportunities, the stakes allegedly transformed from family drama into financial exposure. Critics argue those corporations did not invest massive fortunes into Harry and Meghan simply because they were famous celebrities. They invested because they were selling proximity to the British throne itself, the image of royal insiders, the image of parents raising children inside the line of succession. That was the product. That was the value. And this is where the story becomes explosive. Because if constitutional questions surrounding the births ever evolved from rumor into legally recognized fact, every contract attached to the Sussex royal image could allegedly face devastating scrutiny. Lawyers would immediately begin asking whether material representations were accurate at the time deals were signed. Did companies invest under assumptions tied directly to constitutional legitimacy? Were they sold a royal status later challenged under British succession law? Those questions alone could unleash catastrophic legal battles stretching across 2 continents. But the financial danger does not stop with Hollywood corporations. Critics also point toward taxpayer-funded security battles and public funding controversies. For years, Harry fought aggressively for protection rights connected to royal status, court cases, appeals, demands for security recognition. But if constitutional legitimacy surrounding the children ever faced serious challenge, opponents argue it could reopen every debate surrounding public entitlement and state-funded privilege. Suddenly, the issue would no longer be emotional fairness. It would become legal justification, and governments care about legality more than feelings. Still, beneath the constitutional chaos, there remains a darker tragedy hiding underneath all the palace intrigue. 2 children, Archie and Lilibet. Because regardless of what is true or false, they are the ones growing up inside the shadow of endless suspicion. Their names are now permanently attached to theories, legal analyses, investigations, online debates, and royal conspiracies that may follow them for decades. Every future search of their identities will pull up questions surrounding legitimacy, secrecy, and succession. And the brutal reality is that children do not control the narratives adults create around them. Imagine growing older and discovering that millions of people across the world spent years analyzing the circumstances of your birth like a constitutional crime scene. Imagine realizing your arrival into the world became evidence in a geopolitical battle between monarchy and modern celebrity culture. That is why some royal observers believe this situation has already moved beyond gossip entirely. It has become psychological history being written in real time. And then comes the final terrifying possibility: letters patents. The royal weapon nobody talks about loudly because its power is absolute inside the monarchy. Kings and queens can redefine titles, succession structures, and royal status through sovereign authority. History already proves it. George V used it. Queen Elizabeth II used it. And according to speculation surrounding William's future reign, he could theoretically use the same mechanism to quietly redraw the boundaries of the royal family without ever publicly accusing anyone of anything. No screaming press conference. No denied demands. No televised confrontation. Just a signature. One cold signature from a king protecting the institution above all else. That possibility explains why palace silence feels so heavy now. Because silence is not surrender. Silence is patience. William allegedly understands that monarchy survives by avoiding emotional chaos and letting constitutional machinery move slowly until resistance collapses on its own. Every unanswered inconsistency, every altered timeline, every debate over hospital protocols and legal jurisdiction simply adds another layer to the storm already forming around the Sussex legacy. And now, the final question hangs over the crown like dark fog rolling across Buckingham Palace at midnight. If everything was completely normal, why did so many traditional procedures reportedly disappear? Why did timelines become so confusing? Why do the whispers refuse to die no matter how many documentaries are released? Because truth usually survives scrutiny, but secrecy creates obsession. And inside the British monarchy, obsession eventually becomes history. The game may already be over without the public realizing it yet. The crown does not move fast. It moves forever. And somewhere inside palace corridors, while cameras flash in California and headlines rage online, the future king may simply be waiting for the exact moment when one signature changes everything forever.